Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Joel Grabber with us today. We will talk about one of my favorite topic, outbound lead gen. Hopefully we'll talk about AI tools and tech stacks and everything in between. This podcast is brought to you by podpar.com. That's my podcasting agency if you want to grow a pod. Joel, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and about modern outbound?
Yeah, great to be here. So I've been running a cold outbound agency called Modern Outbound for about 4 years. We're trying to make outbound not suck and be effective for primarily SaaS software startups, anybody that wants to get the word out safely, responsibly, without overspending on sales development reps. So we come in with a specific set of tools and tactics to get them in front of the right people on a daily basis. That's more or less what we do.
Your Wall Street background, like why did you switch from the street wall to modern outbound and lead genning for your clients?
Yeah, I learned a lot in the Wall Street game of like selling complex strategies and trying to simplify it for advisors and institutions. I think I just got a little bored, to be honest with you. Like we had a lot of shackles on like what we could say or do. I was doing a lot of my own business development. We had very aggressive quotas, which was fine, but I was very limited on how creative I can be, the technology that I can use to like get in front of people. And I think in general, I was just ready for a new challenge. Maybe you say I have a problem with authority, going back to grade school. So I always knew I wanted to like do my own thing and lead a team, build a really good service. So that was the motivation, but it was a good time while it lasted.
So what kind of kid were you? Because looking at you, you don't look like mischievous. You look like the calm little one that would have good grades, but would not do good like with authority. Me, I was always outside of the class. I was the class clown. Like what type of kid were you?
Major class clown, big time. Like I don't know why. I was maybe a people pleaser. And I felt like I needed to like impress people and make them laugh in order to like be valuable or perceived as valuable. I don't know. Schools didn't really know how to handle me. Like I think they're used to like a very specific kind of kid that like fits the mold. And if you're like outside the mold, they're like their heads explode. So they didn't know what to do with me. And I think just kids and whatever, they mature at different stages. And it took me a long time to like have some foresight, like get your shit together. And by the time I turned like 18, 19, like I got serious about life and career and path and all that. But it was rough. I feel badly for my parents. Like they deserve like a medal. Like I put them through some stuff for sure. But it's what makes for the most interesting kids. Like my best friends to this day, who like I was in elementary school with, we were like all in the lower classes because we couldn't behave ourselves. But all of those kids in those lower classes are doing the best, like financially, like they have their own businesses. The ones in the high classes are maybe the lawyers and the accountants, but there's nothing wrong with that. But it is interesting to like take like an accounting of that years later, like what people are up to. Sometimes it's good to be anti-establishment a little bit.
Yes, and it's funny how life tends to equilibrate things because these kids were more work, and so I don't feel bad for my parents because I'll pay for their retirement. I'll put them in mansions, and they'll be well treated. But yes, indeed, they worked hard. I think it's not well, I mean, it's a system, like yes, your parents placed us in that system, but what options did they have, I reflect often on that question because I'm about to have kids myself in less than 2 years, and I want to have like 2 or 3 kids, and I want to start my own school and put them to a curriculum of only like CEOs teaching them and then founders and EQ people, so high IQ, high EQ, and like high success, high value in society. And like I'm thinking a lot about that because I had a trauma with that system too. I mean, the why is not only people pleaser. Yes, there is some of that, but I think it's an addiction to serotonin to always have fun, you know, because school is fucking boring.
So boring. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
you look at the clock on the wall. I have that imagery like really deeply ingrained in me, showing 8 o'clock in the morning, and you know that you're not getting out until
Whole
3.
day.
Yeah,
Prison.
it's bullshit.
There's something about the smell that wafted from those desks and like the pencils and the erasers that like I still have trauma from. Like I immediately checked out. Like I mentally checked out when I would smell that eraser. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm with you. It was boring. I mean, hey man, if you can start that school with where you teach kids how to like handle their regulate their emotions and like meditate and like understand how a mortgage works, like real stuff that is helpful on your day to day, I'll send my kids there, no doubt.
100K a year.
All right, I'm out. I'm out. I'll send them. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk offline. Maybe I get some
I'll accept
discounts.
Afterpay. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll set up a payment plan or something.
yeah,
But
but
yeah, man. No, I think there's all the stuff. You know, you live with no regrets. I'm happy that I had the background. Like, I think it just makes me maybe more interesting. I ask more questions. It's led me to be a better CEO, like a better founder. So I'm good with it.
yeah, and there's two things also. The other thing that, yeah, life equilibrates things, that's one like general truth. Another is I call it the pent-up energy theory, right? So there's so much pent-up energy. It's like, you know, that bull that when they do the rodeo thing, the
Yeah.
bull has a lot of pent-up energy. He's like, fuck, I need to get out of that cage. And when he gets out, he gets the fuck out, you know, and
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like jumping at, man, there's so much strength in that bull, you know, moves so much energy. And I think in us entrepreneurs, we pent up all that energy, and then we're let go out of the gates, and then we're like a dog running free in the fields and having fun.
Exactly.
So
It's all context, man. If you can feel I sometimes just feel so much gratitude that I get to do what I do every day, and I picked this path, and it didn't have to happen that way, and I get to talk to interesting people. Like, we do well as a business. Like, I can hire employees. Like, you know what I mean? It's good to have those moments throughout the day. And be like, shit, like it didn't have to shake out this way.
yeah, every day that of this freedom is to be enjoyed, because when it wasn't the school system, it was the judiciary system, you know, like the police. Like I got into trouble with them. I
Uh,
never wanted anyone. Nowadays the only obstacle that we have on that level is probably the tax man, but yeah, like
right.
that can also like be somewhat fixed. Anyway, the current business that we're both in revolves mostly around crafting interesting offers for a specific niche. What specific niche and what specific offers do you see working quite well in this current market?
Ooh, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I think we work with a lot of products like that are usually technology, software, and I consider like two categories. There's like red ocean, where there's a lot of blood in the water and there's a lot of competition, and a lot of those products don't really have good differentiation. And those are hard to sell. So you've got to be really creative and you've got to really narrow down on a really tight audience. Like if you have a generic product, you better have a niche audience. If you have a really niche product, you could get away with having a more generic audience, if you know what I mean. So we try to assess that when we work with a company. Like, are you red ocean or are you blue ocean? Blue ocean being like you're innovating, you're in a wide open space, like maybe more niche product to a more general audience. But I think it just depends on how, like, I mean, you've seen the copy and the stuff in your inbox, LinkedIn and email and calling, like a lot of it is just so generic and like not human. And I think I don't know what happens. Like people start crafting copy and like they just forget who they are, or like they feel like they have to message something a certain way. But I don't know. I think products just need to like really zero in. I'm either really niche on the product side or I'm niche on the audience. It can't be neither.
Yeah, there's yeah, LinkedIn is worse than my mailbox. Oddly enough, I don't receive a lot of outreach. I'm not sure why exactly, because I have a bunch of companies, not just the lead gen one. So
Yeah.
theoretically, I should be in many categories. The one
Yeah.
that I receive is way too professional, generally speaking, and because the first trap that like a lot of people fall into when it comes to outreach is looking too professional. And ironically, nowadays I do so much scale that people reply to me like, "Hey, go back to grammar school."
Mhm.
But basically, it's on purpose, you know, not like writing not in caps and in
Yeah,
like two lines, literally. It's really a reply-based approach. Me, everything that I see in my mailbox is way too formal. It's like,
definitely.
hello, Charles, and then they go to the next paragraph. And on LinkedIn, well, it's a plague, quite literally. I don't think yet like people are going in a nice in a good direction. Then they all offer the same CTA, which is book a meeting, and they send the Calendly
Mhm.
link right after. So
Mhm.
again, I think going against the grain, like we started in this pre-conversation, being your own self, being quirky and being different will
Mhm.
bring you much better results, in my opinion.
Definitely. There's nothing worse than those. I mean, I don't know why. I can't even believe that people are still sending that because there's no way they're getting responses. Like there's just no way. Like you're saying like you said, hello, they're introducing themselves in the first paragraph. There's like 4 paragraphs, it's bullet points, there's links, there's like you said, a demo link. That shit doesn't work. I think the big problem people have is they don't understand that there's a difference between an outbound email and a marketing email, and I think they just assume it's the same thing. So everything looks like a marketing email. And if you just do some work, just a little bit of work on targeting, like instead of just sending this to everybody at manufacturing companies, like maybe CFOs are motivated by something different than a COO or a CEO. And like that should be a totally different talk track. Like, how do I write to them? And you just doing something as simple as that, you would see a huge uptick in response rates. But I don't know, people just maybe they don't believe in it to begin with, so they just kind of check the box off. Um, but yeah, being status quo is never going to work anymore.
And the niches that you see work well. In my case, for example, AI as a service or GPT integration, I'm getting a lot of responses from that. I'm seeing a lot of productized services responses, like my agency, for example, podcasting as a service,
Mhm.
mastermind as a service, which are ideas that are validated through lots of market research. I use my cold email link firm mostly as market research, apart from this podcast too.
Mhm.
What niches are you seeing uptick nowadays?
I think so. Definitely AI and ML that have a really good use case. So like even like automation as a service, AI as a service. What I'm finding really to be really cool now are like managed SaaS. So like they are a platform and a product, but they have a managed overlay, which I think is really cool. Like you have so many, there's so much software out there now, and I think people are like kind of fatigued by it. So if you can round it out with like, hey, we're a team of specialists, so like maybe you're a portal for like monitoring investor activity if you're like a fund or something, but there's a managed overlay where there's specialists that are kind of like fractional compliance people that are overseeing it. I'm seeing a lot of success with those types of products, but I mean, we work with all kinds of products. Data platforms are really popular. Like that works really well in outreach because people just are thirsty for knowledge. If you can give them really good data sources for something very specific, like we work with a data platform that does student housing. Like they focus just on student housing opportunities, and it goes to property investors, developers. Like that kind of stuff works. But
Right.
if you're just going to be some like AI wrapper, you know what I mean, where it's like you're just wrapping something up into a different brand with no real differentiation, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, AI risk is another niche that I think can be really successful. I'm accepting a client to date and in that niche. I've
Yeah.
seen shorts as a service from the,
Shorts?
yeah, like a YouTube shorts,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
TikTok shorts, you know, even if there's AI apps
Yeah.
like Opus.pro that do that, like if you do
Yeah.
like great shorts, it can really skyrocket your subscriber base. And also like odd niches, right? Like book as a service. So the Joel Grabber book, for example, I create your
Mm,
book as a service. I
mm,
I think most entrepreneurs, they whatever they consume, they want to build, like, so if they read books, they'll want to have their own books. If they listen to pods, they'll want to have their own pods.
Sure.
Quite a lot of success in there. And
Interesting.
I'm thinking of like, a title idea for the creating your book as a service, so the book publishing agency sort of. And for example, my podcast, it's like the titles is like the Joel Grabber podcast, and that grabs a lot of attention and gets me probably 10 to 15 positive replies a day, half of which convert into meeting. And for books, I think I'd have to use like Clay to come up with like nice headlines, a title of a book, like that they receive literally in their inbox. Title of a book by Joel Grabber as a title. Have you used some of these AI apps to customize your outreach at scale?
Yeah, so I have opinions on that. I know that I've seen Clay, and I think they're a great tool. If you can do enough prompt engineering to like get it down to something really good. I'm a bigger believer in like scaling relevance as much as you can versus like those cute one-liners of like, hey, you do this, and then it's not connected to your value prop. I actually think there's a bigger opportunity at the middle of the funnel with AI. So like we're training a model now that is going to determine sentiment on, let me back up, right? We'll generate a lot of leads for a client, but maybe they'll convert. Well, the good ones convert 60% to meetings, 70% to meetings. Great, awesome. Some convert like 10, 20%. So what's happening there? Like, why are they not converting interested leads to meetings? And I think there's a broken system where like once the lead comes in and they raise their hand, they want information or they have a question or they may want you to reach out in 3 months. Salespeople are dropping off there. So we're training a model to be able to determine sentiment on what types of responses, how interested are they, and it will go into nurture funnels that are automated. It sounds simple actually, but it's like training the AI to like understand sentiment. To me, like that's where the opportunity is right now. Like I think there's just a lot of salespeople like with a bunch of garbage. Like they're using AI, GPT to like do their job, and I think it's hurting outbound right now. Like my copywriters might use GPT to like determine pain points for a CFO versus like a CEO or a VP of sales, but they write the copy. And I think that'll change one day. I think GPT 4 and 5 and 6, it's going to get insanely good, but I just don't think it's there.
Right. I think also people should mention that they use AI for ethical purposes. So the AI knows, right? The human doesn't know until he reads the actual email that was sent, and get the information on the meeting straight up. What's your opinion on people that say like, reach back to me in 3 months? Me, I have a clear opinion, and it's that 90% are just not interested. I did the follow-up experiment and they just never close. If there's no sense of urgency, or at least especially like to take the meeting now, just take the meeting and I'll give you some info and you check if it's urgent. If people just push me back like 3 months or next year, they're just not interested. What's your take on that?
I think it really depends. I think if somebody says reach out to me at a specific date, like if it's like, so it's November, I had a couple responses today, like on my outbound, like talk to me in the new year, like in January, like we're all set for the end of the year. I think those will convert and definitely into meetings. It depends on the sentiment. Like how are they pushing you off? I hate to sound like everybody else right now. Like I feel like you're gonna roll your eyes, but like if instead of just quick follow-ups, like in January, February, like give them some ideas, like teach them as much, whatever you can teach them in a very short amount of time. Like if it's 2 sentences with the trend, or it's a report, or it's like, did you know, whatever, just keep them in the game. And
Fully agree with that. Fully agree.
yeah,
So like, but me, like, I think in terms of AI a lot, and that's some eye rolling also, but is like, could we prompt the AI to send them in email form about like news that might shake up their industry and their role? That's a really cool use case. I do
that could be
preach.
interesting.
I do preach like never follow up just to follow up, right? That's just serving you. Just always add value to every touch. so that, and ideally every single of your touch would be smart and would add IQ points to the target,
Definitely.
you know? So
Yeah. I'll do something really simple, like if somebody I reached out to in the summer is like talking to me at the end of the year, now they're in a sequence where it's like, hey, by the way, like we've been working on this AI model that helps with the conversion funnel. We didn't talk about this in the summer because it wasn't ready, but happy to like give you some things to think about. Versus like, hey, can we get a meeting? You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's the same kind of method, but just giving them something new. I think we probably agree on that.
Yes, we do. What's your tech stack look like? You know, I've been A/B testing tools. Like me, like I'm an Apollo sellout. Basically, like I just love what they're building. They have huge
Yeah,
funding. I'm quite bullish on them. It's really
definitely.
simple. It's everything under one roof. I do believe very strongly in their vision. When you integrate with SendGrid, you can get scale. You have 5 mailbox per account. I've
Mhm.
used Contact Out for adding a massive contacts there. I'm partners with them, so I have a very nice deal.
What's the name of the
Uh,
database?
Contact Out, so they give me
Contact
like
Out.
so much contacts. They give me 100K contacts per month, basically. And I also A/B tested Ample Market. I got a partnership with them too.
Mhm.
So far, so good. Ample Market, for example, we can target events that happen on LinkedIn or that Dreamforce 2023, you know. So they
Mhm.
have cool little features like that. On your side, what have you been testing and what are you bullish on in terms of tech
Mhm.
stack nowadays?
So definitely Apollo. We've been using Apollo for since I started this 4 years ago. Before it was cool to use Apollo. They've gotten so much better on their filters. They have good signals. I mean, we still clean all of the data through like a million verifier, but they've given ZoomInfo a run for their money for sure. And their technographic data has gotten so much better in the last like 6 months. Um, so we work with a lot of companies that like want to know what platforms their prospects are using. It's been so much. Maybe it's not as good as ZoomInfo, but I would almost call BS on some of ZoomInfo's like technographic stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like it might look like it's robust, but like I don't know.
I think
Um,
it's funny because everyone's against ZoomInfo nowadays, me
yeah.
included. Me since day one, you know, they did a fatal, very fatal error, which is to refuse agencies like mine on the platform. They thought that we would sell the data, you know, like they would
Mhm.
give us, and with that they just like put a bunch of promoters. They had these promoters turn their back against them on day
Mhm.
one. Apollo, on the other side, did the other thing, which is to partner up with agencies like us, and
Mhm.
we became super promoters, and just a fatal mistake. And I think we can
Yeah.
see the difference today.
Yeah, I think it's the sales practices of ZoomInfo, like pushing people into contracts that they're not full. You know what I mean? Like they're taking advantage of, I think, of people that don't know better. They don't know what other databases are out there, so they're like, well, ZoomInfo is the only game in town, and it's obviously not. Um, the whole concept of like starting really high and then waiting for the other person to negotiate down, like so everybody's paying something different. Like I talked to a guy today who's paying like 10K a month for ZoomInfo. Yesterday, someone was paying 20K for the same thing, and it just feels like a very inefficient way. It's like dishonest a little bit. Um, and the data quality, I would question in some cases. Yeah, so we use Apollo, we use Million Verifier, we use MailReach and Clock apps for like deliverability, like monitoring health, sender score. SendGrid usually like we'll do either dedicated IPs or shared IPs, but now we've got a custom server that we're sending from as well, which I think helps. I don't know if you've been tracking the updates from Google and Outlook, but they're clamping down and they're being pretty sneaky with what they do with your emails. So I don't think you want to rely on. I mean, so many sales teams are still sending from Google, which is just a huge mistake, and
Right.
it doesn't scale.
So just yesterday, Google sent me a message saying that they banned my account or something like that,
Mm,
my Gmail, because I was A/B testing something, and then
yeah.
immediately they reversed it. I don't know why, but yeah, Google is not on a good track also as a company. Well, that's my feeling. Their stock is another story, right? I don't think it's reflective of if they'll be perennial as a company, but on an
Yeah.
AI level, they really fucking suck. You know,
Yeah.
they acquired DeepMind and couldn't get the team to deploy anything, which like communicates a huge problem. And I feel it's a similar problem in which Twitter was facing. And when Elon came in, I think he did a really good decision. You know, these companies have become woke and they've become
Hmm.
super big. Employees getting paid 500K a year, they can work on anything they want, they
Hmm.
go to the fancy cafeteria. Like, no, this is not how you grow a fucking company. I think that's like the woke that HR has brought, you know,
Hmm.
look, oh, treat everyone nice. No, I think you need to be on a warpath, and I think you need to perform. It's like a high level team, you know. Yes, you
Yep.
need to treat your athletes right, but the priority is to have them being in a being feisty, you know, like they say in England, like always a bit of testosterone in the air and ready to
Hmm.
fight, ready to innovate, ready to go to war. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think people want purpose more than like pool tables. I mean, the perks and like the coffees and the blah blah blah. I mean, look, like you said, if they're paying them well, maybe that's okay. But people want to have meaning in their job. It seems like our generation, millennials, like the Gen Zers, the whatever, that seems to be what they want, like to have purpose behind what they do. Um, yeah, we've gotten a little soft. I think maybe some companies have gotten a little soft, maybe. Um, there's a lot of like boxes they need to check off, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I don't know, maybe Google can pull it off because they're Google, but
there you
yeah.
go. Joel, we're already on time. Where can people
Yeah.
find out more about you?
Yeah, you can check us out, modernoutbound.com. I share stuff on LinkedIn daily, so check me out, Joel Graver. Yeah, and it was great chatting with you.